Good morning, new 1%. It's Satoshi Boomin coming at you with another video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell so you never miss a Satoshi Boomin video. We're talking about Cardano today, guys. Hit that like button. I got my hot tea and honey, loaded, ready to go. Let's get this show started. Taking a look at the price of Cardano. Yep. It is what it is, guys. We're down here about 3% again for the 100th time. The least interesting thing about Cardano is the price right here, guys. It looks like we're slowly accumulating. If you bought a month ago at the all-time highs, only thing I can tell you is just to hodl, guys. Hodl, at least hodl until Alonzo comes out. Okay, if you want to sell after Alonzo, you know, nobody's going to be mad at you. Actually, nobody's going to be mad at you if you sell now. It is your money. You can do whatever you want with it, but Alonzo's coming out. Smart contracts are coming out. There's going to be ways to earn more yield on your Cardano with all the automated market makers coming out, liquid finance, amongst others. So, yeah, you do what you want with your Cardano. When in doubt, zoom out. Things don't look so bad when we zoom out, guys. All right, guys. So that's the price. Moving on. All right. So we've got a good article here. U.S. World News Report. That's pretty dope. I mean, they have they're featuring a Cardano article on U.S. World News, U.S. Money News. This is pretty awesome. It just goes on to talk about how to stake Cardano. And speaking of staking Cardano, I'd like to give a shout out to our wonderful sponsor, ADA Coins, ticker symbol COINZ. Please consider staking to ADA Coins, guys. Again, small stake pool operators will be the growth and the future of the Cardano ecosystem. Support small stake pool operators. If you're delegating to Binance, if you're delegating a 1% pool, if you're delegating to a large pool, you might want to consider helping the Cardano ecosystem by staking 2 coins, ticker symbol COINZ. It's a one-man show, and the proceeds will be going to helping underserviced youth in LA and teaching them about Cardano and technology. So thank you to Coins. You're growing your delegators slowly but surely, brother. Keep up the good work. You know, we're going to be here for you all the way. So thank you. And moving on. So staking, especially if you're new to this channel, welcome to the Cardano channel here. There's no risk in staking, guys. Just stake your crypto. If you have extra ADA sitting around in a wallet that's not getting passive income, guys, you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay, moving on. Charles announced that Cardano developers will soon release a new research paper on algorithmic stablecoins. This is pretty awesome, especially for people waiting for Goguen, waiting for smart contracts. Charles claims that this paper is quote-unquote unfinished business from his BitShares days. We have a really amazing algorithmic stablecoin paper coming out in the next few weeks. An algorithmic stablecoin are a segment of cryptocurrencies designed to achieve price stability and balance the circulating supply of the asset by being pegged to a reserve asset such as the US dollar, gold, or any other foreign currency. To put in simple terms, the algorithmic stablecoin uses the algorithm underneath, which issues more coins when the price increases and buys them off the market when prices fall. These coins grant traders the comfort to reap many benefits of crypto assets like BTC and ETH without risk of price volatility. And then he goes on to tweet what we just read there. Hoskinson co-founded BitShares with well-known cryptocurrency entrepreneur Daniel Lammer, but the two went their separate ways for unknown reasons. In January, IOHK and EMURGO announced at AgeUSD will be the stablecoin launched on the ERGO blockchain. And Hoskinson said that he was obsessed with decentralized finance, saying that Cardano's algorithmic stablecoin will be far better than MakerDAO. And there's some validity to that, I would think. I can't wait for the stablecoin to come out, guys. It's definitely going to be good for us, especially since we're going to want to provide liquidity, provide, get yield off our stablecoins when we sell our Cardano. We're going to want to keep it in the Cardano ecosystem, just like ETH does. So, pretty awesome. I'm rapid firing this because I'm afraid we're going to have another power outage. We've been having power outages like darn near every day for the past, I want to say, week. And things are getting a little bit concerning. I think it's due to the heat and due to just the population in my state. It's really, really hot, very, very dry. So anyway, guys, let's just get through this. Alexander Huck posts, Mark Cuban couldn't see the value in Cardano, but he found a value project in a project called Titan. Another DeFi rug pull that just got investors wrecked. Never invest based on anyone's posts, not even if they're billionaire investors. Always do your own research and don't get influenced. Don't invest based on my videos, guys. I am nobody special. I am just like a normal human being who just so happens to have a capture software and a microphone. So again, guys, do your own research. Don't get sucked in by Elon Musk and his tweets and all that. Like that, that's dumb, guys. Do your own research. Invest in projects that you believe in. Okay? And Mark Cuban, he was hating on Cardano and all that stuff. And now he's lost millions of dollars and got rug pulled. So it happens, man. Billionaires can be wrong, and they're often wrong. Just because they've mastered the art of money does not mean that they've mastered the art of life. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Mark Cuban probably lost a couple million. That's a drop in the bucket to him. Hopefully he'll learn and come on over to Cardano. I mean, Charles has invited him with open arms, but he still wants to be a little maximalist, a little maxi. And that's okay. We're just going to laugh at him and keep it moving. Shout out to all the LGBTQ followers in the comment section, guys. It looks like Cardano has created some cool GIFs in the Discord and Twitter keyboard. So if you are down with the LGBTQ community and you want to do your support for Pride, you can now do so with these cool GIFs. So yeah. Moving on, guys, we're going to be wrapping things up soon. I know this isn't the longest or the most interesting Cardano update video, but hey, we're here every day, whether there's news or not news. Cardano has updated their documentation, finally. Jeez, their documentation has been bad, but they've updated it now. You can get started on Cardano. It tells you everything you need to know. If you're new to Cardano, it gives you an introduction, what's a blockchain, crypto, all that you need to know for the ecosystem. You can learn about Cardano. You can create a node. You can set up a stake pool, delegation, all that good stuff. So I'm glad that they've redesigned this to make it cleaner. They actually have documentation. Look at that. Pretty cool. Whereas before they did not. So this is good. I just wanted to briefly show you guys this. This is docs.cardano.org. You can take a look at all the technical documentation here. They even got peer-to-peer networking up and almost running. I mean, this is still in the prototype phase, but it's good to see here. Marlow, one of the most slept on protocols in Cardano is Marlow. They got some community tools as well. Take a look at your own leisure, guys, if you're interested. The Cardano documentation. And finally, guys, we're going to show a couple more clips from the Lex Friedman podcast. Guys, please watch this video. I mean, I know it's 4 or 5 hours long. I know some of you can't handle it, but hell, you watch TV all damn day. You might as well get some knowledge in you, all right? 5 hours of Charles talking about crypto is more important than, cat videos. So let's get some knowledge in us. 5 hours long. Obviously, I'm not going to play the whole thing. We're going to do 2 more clips. We did 2 clips yesterday. We're going to do 2 more clips today. Let's take a look at what Charles has to say about Cardano versus Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And hopefully you can hear this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure you can. One moment.
Maybe they'll consolidate. Maybe they'll stay divergent. I mean, look at big tech. You have Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook. They all coexist, and they're trillion-dollar companies. Some cases with TCP, it consolidates to one standard, and that's what we end up using.
So what's your intuition with Cardano having the proof of stake and then eventually smart contracts versus the Bitcoin with layer 2 technologies, this kind of evolving creature? Again, you said you can't really predict the future, but what's your intuition why one might be more successful than the other?
So the problem with Bitcoin is it is so slow. It's like the mainframe programming of the past. And it's the only reason it's still around is because there was so much invested in keeping it around that we just kind of have to leave it there. And one day COBOL will die. There's nothing about it from a collection of USPs that's particularly desirable. You have extremely long settlement time. You have extremely low programmability. It is not aware of any other system. There's no native way of issuing an asset in that system. You can't even do a pull transaction. I mean, you can't do anything that's interesting or unique there. And yeah, all due respect, it's, mafia, all due respect, Tony. You got some problems.
You
need
come
to lose
to me
some weight.
on the day of my daughter's wedding.
I know. So, all due respect to the Bitcoin people, it's like an amazing, incredible first generation thing. And we're all here because of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you have to upgrade the damn thing. Just because you were a high school football star doesn't mean that 30 years later, you're still a high school football star in the same shape. You got the beer belly, you're old, you're not doing this thing again. And that's what Bitcoin has to do. There's fundamental improvements that I think Bitcoin can make at the protocol level that would actually make it an incredibly competitive system. Like if they wanted to keep Nakamoto consensus, proof of work, there's ways to enhance proof of work. I mean, Amin Gansir did this with Bitcoin NG, Pramod Viswanathan did this with Prism. Make it 10,000 times faster, and you don't compromise the fundamental security assumptions that the system has. You can add programmability to it. Blockstream created a language called Simplicity. So there's actual ways to extend, and we did this with Cardano with the extended UTXO model. There's ways to extend what Bitcoin has, keep the philosophy, the accounting, the way of thinking about transactions, but then suddenly you can now do DeFi and other things. But what they've done is said, we will not evolve the base layer at all, and we're just going to build all this layer 2 stuff, which is usually highly fragile and centralized and requires enormous effort at the base level to do anything. It's not a coincidence Vitalik started as a color coins guy and a master coin guy, hanging out in those circles. He was trying to innovate and do things in Bitcoin, and it was so hard and difficult that he started diverging and going and doing things in a different system entirely. I knew the Mastercoin guys, JR, and all these people. They were maximalists. They really wanted to build something cool and exciting for Bitcoin. And anything they did, the developers would attack them. It's, you're misusing op return. You're doing this, that. It was a holy war anytime you wanted to evolve. So I think it's its own worst enemy. It has the network effect. It has the brand name. It has the regulatory approval. But there's no way to change the system, even correcting obvious downsides in that system. Now, what's really cool is Ethereum doesn't suffer from that problem. It's getting to a point where it has a similar network effect to Bitcoin, but the community there is completely different in culture. They love evolving. They love upgrading, sometimes a little too much. And so that means that if you look at the trajectory of things, if I had to bet just those two systems, Bitcoin or Ethereum, I would say 9 times out of 10, Ethereum is going to win the fight against Bitcoin if it was the only competitor. But obviously we're here and a lot of other people are here, so there's different things going on, so it's a much more complex game. But I think that's always the key, zooming out a little bit, set the technology aside and the word salative cryptography aside because it's too much. What you have to always do is say, what incentive does the system have to evolve? And when you look at things like Android and the App Store and these analogous platforms, you say, the evolution is user-driven, and there's a financial incentive for the user to participate. So if I had to look at the trajectory of this thing, come back 10 years later, it's probably going to have millions of applications and lots of stuff going on because that's the way the system was constructed. Okay, it makes sense. When you look at Bitcoin, you say, what is the incentive to evolve the system? There's none. What is the incentive for the system to be competitive? There's none. In fact, it's the opposite. They've turned it into a religion. I was in Miami at this Bitcoin conference there. I had a toilet paper roll thrown at me that had shitcoin written on it. You have Max Kaiser out on the stage, doing his best Rick James impression.
Was he the guy that did the F Elon?
Yes,
Elon?
yes. And so
wonderful.
you're watching this stuff and you say, okay, first, why would anybody want to join that? And then second, where is the conversation about how do we achieve something? I started with Cardano the end in mind. I said, we really want to sit down and build this financial operating system. And the definition of success is the poorest person in the world has access to the same system as the richest person in the world, and they both get treated fairly. We've never had that happen before. Okay, that's something. You can agree with it, disagree with it, say it's boiling the ocean, it's impossible. At least I have something. I can't for the life of me understand what the hell is the point of Bitcoin. When I joined the Bitcoin space way back in the day, it was, hey, we hate the dollar, and hey, we like gold a lot. Let's create digital gold. Let's build a payment system. And then it just kind of went all these different directions, and nobody can actually tell you what Bitcoin is for. It's a store of value, okay. There's some proof of work thing where maybe you're like incentivizing alternative energy to be produced. I don't know. It's like nobody really knows the philosophy. There's no direction. And they say, but don't worry, just buy and hold, and everything will sort its way out.
I believe it's HODL.
Yeah, HODL.
What about the idea of digital gold? So trying to replace this particular physical material that is gold and transfer into the digital
that's
space.
Something. Okay, let's do that then. And just say that's all it does. Then why are we doing Lightning? Why are we doing any of these other things? Because you don't really need with a commodity, a digital commodity, high throughput. You can have slow settlement. You can have high transaction fees. All these types of things, and that's fine. Okay, that's something. Pick it.
Well, the idea is to try to come up with technology like the Lightning Network that could have something like gold, but then still build an economy around it. Something with high throughput transactions.
And have we ever built a successful banking credit system off of gold? Never. It never works because there's too much volatility in the underlying asset. Would you take a gold-denominated loan for something? If somebody says, all right, I'll give you 5 bars of gold to go buy this car and pay me back 5.5 bars of gold. Nobody would know in 5 years where they come out in that kind of arrangement.
The idea is that the gold is used for the settlement of transactions, and then the actual economy is operating outside of gold, and then you kind of connect back to gold.
So we have to go back to the gold reserve, and we tried that for a long time. It didn't really work in a modern global economy. We had the Bretton Woods Agreement and all these other things. And so I understand what you're saying. And maybe there's some merit to that. But if that was really in earnest where they want to go, then the conversation should be about, well, how do we make it easy for layer 2 protocols to interact with Bitcoin? So why is simplicity not built into it? Why is it taking so long to do SNORSEGs? Why is it taking so long to do all of these obvious upgrades, which are cryptographically low danger? Also, NEPA-POWs. Non-interactive proofs of proof of work. There's no cost to doing that. It's just a property of proof of work where certain puzzles are more special than other puzzles. And by noticing that, you can create these beautiful proofs that allow you to have sidechains and light clients. It's not compromising security of the system. It's just something you get for free with proof of work. Those came out in 2016. There's derivative work, Fly client floating around. Where the hell is it?
Yeah.
This is the frustration that I have is like, if you really are serious about this whole Lightning and gold economy thing, I love choice. I'm a libertarian by nature. I love competition. And, I read all those books. I read Ludwig von Mises's work and Murray Rothbard's work. And I love what Hayek had to say about private currencies. Let's go try it. That's great. But then you have to have some focus and commitment as an ecosystem. And the excuse they use is, well, no, we don't because we're decentralized. And because we're decentralized, we don't need that. As if there's some sort of guiding swarm intelligence that will naturally push the system in that particular direction. But then you ask, well, how do people measure the success of Bitcoin? Is it the fact that they've actually achieved lots of transactions and lots of actual economic activity and lots of businesses accepting
Number
Bitcoin?
go up.
It's the price. That's what they do. And that's the only thing they pay attention. That's why this is the most attended Bitcoin conference in history. Not because somehow Bitcoin got so much more adoption. It's because this is the highest price point Bitcoin has ever been this year. Over 30,000.
So first of all, let me state that Charles, for the most part, is
So let's just Charles talking a little bit about the problem with Bitcoin, about the problem he sees with Bitcoin. And some of that stuff is true. I would agree. But another feature of Bitcoin is that it's pretty rigid. I think that that's a feature more than a fault of Bitcoin, that yes, you know, there's all these things we can do, but just because you can do something, does that mean necessarily you should do something? Just because you can make an improvement on something, does that necessarily mean you should? Just for the Bitcoin is kind of like, you know, the old guard. It's unchanging, it's unyielding. And in a certain respect, you can respect that, in my humble opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. There's one more video, one more little clip that I'm going to want to play here, and then we're going to wrap things up.
You did say the success of Cardano, sort of the vision you have is for you to have less and less power over time. So this idea of governance, what's your vision for a decentralized, secure governance system?
So the first thing you have to do is you got to look at meaningful metrics, not vanity metrics. What does it mean to have legitimacy in a governance system? You can build any governance system you want. You have a dictator, right? Like Bob is in charge. It's like whether you like Bob or not, you know, he's in charge. It's not very legitimate. And you can have pure democracy where every single person votes and then nothing ever gets done. You know, county dog catcher is like a 6-year election or something like that. So there's a spectrum there between absolute power to one and perfectly egalitarian power to every single potential participant inside the system. And then the question is, okay, well, how do you even how do you handle choice architecture in that? So like, are you asking your people about every question? Or are you asking your people about a subset of questions related to a particular set of topics, but then they're not allowed to talk about other topics? Like, for example, are they allowed to change the tax rate, but they can't change freedom of speech? That kind of a thing. So the first thing you have to do when you build these types of systems and they get to a certain scale is you have to build some mechanism for people who are interested in governance to self-select and participate. Just create a collection bucket. In Bitcoin, we had Bitcoin Talk and Bitcoin Reddit and these things, and eventually the GitHub repos and these things. There was a place to go if you were interested. And you need some sort of change management system where people who want to evolve the system can write it down in a very careful way. So in Bitcoin's case, it was a Bitcoin improvement proposal. On Ethereum, it's the Ethereum improvement proposal. And for us, it's the SIP, the Cardano improvement proposal. But it's just a structured way of discussing how you wish to change. Then there's a question of, do you want to do this implicitly or explicitly? In the case of Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's an implicit system. So there's no on-chain voting. There's no like 5 people said this and 4 people said this, so we do this. In the case of Cardano, we're actually explicitly inviting this. This is one of the biggest differentiators between Cardano, Polkadot, EOS, and these other things, is that we're really serious about governance to the extent that we're actually doing foundational research in e-voting. We're building new voting systems. We're exploring preference voting and quadratic voting. And the long and the short is that we want more and more people to participate in voting for things. And you have to start somewhere. So our hypothesis is we can bootstrap the system with the treasury system. So in Cardano, some of the inflation goes to the block producers, just like any other cryptocurrency, but some goes into a decentralized treasury. She now has over $1 billion of ADA in it. So it's a lot of money. And that treasury is not under my control or the foundation's control. It's actually controlled by the community as a whole through a program called Catalyst. And so all these people can come together, they can submit spending ballots, and other people who hold ADA can vote to approve that. What's nice about it is you have a growth engine to improve two axes. One is absolute participation. So increase the amount of people who hold ADA participating, so the absolute number of people participating. And the other is meaningful participation. So the depth of participation. Did you just show up and vote? Or did you spend hours debating things on Idea Scale, the innovation management platform, interacting with the funding proposal, going back and forth? And there's dozens of little things like that. Now, my hypothesis is if you run this with enough iterations, eventually you get to a certain critical mass, like over 50% absolute participation and a high level of meaningful participation, where you can move beyond funding and you can start actually having meaningful questions about protocol design and improvement proposals and so forth. And then what you can do is you can roll out new voting systems and new social structures, and you can let them start voting on training wheels like system parameters, like, for example, the minimum transaction fee or that K parameter for the amount of stake pools or these types of things. Okay? Then they build enough competency there and they move up a next level and they actually start talking about hard forks using the update system, the hard fork combinator system. See, so that's how you
Voting on a hard fork.
voting on a hard fork. You can't do it unless your social dynamics are right and your voting system is right. And by the way, you also need to write a constitution around the same time, because not all hard forks are created equally. The kinds of things that would add support for a new cryptographic primitive are distinctly different from the kinds of things that would change your monetary policy of the system.
So the Constitution would be written, and maybe you can comment on what is the innovation management
It's a company.
system.
So we partnered with a company called IdeaScale, and they run a kind of a side platform. So people who are interested, that's kind of our version of a forum. They sign up, and there's special tools in that platform for discussions that are productive. So they don't descend into kind of like trolley Reddit style conversations, but they're much more focused around how is your product building out. And by the way, we're going to add more infrastructure over time. In fact, our chief of staff, Tamara Hassan, she's working on setting up an incubator and accelerator, and we have lots of cool partners we've talked with in that space. And it's the same concept. Your idea comes in, what enters the system should not be what gets approved on the other side. It should go through some sort of gauntlet, some sort of crucible where you iterate your way through, and there's all kinds of optimizations and upgrades and evolutions and combinations and destructions that occur. And then by the time you get to the other side, either the idea just dies on the vine because it was a bad idea, or it's a significantly stronger, far more fundable thing, and potentially even gets attached with accountability. So you don't just fund the idea, you actually fund the auditor at the same time, who actually holds the person accountable, because the blockchain is not a real company. It's an ethereal thing. You need a counterparty to hold someone accountable who's real for that type of stuff and that type of funding. So that's what we're doing this year. It's like we have a whole team of people, partners like Governance Live and IdeaScale, and papers we've written, and about 30, 40,000 people regularly participating in this. So it's a huge social experiment. And we're learning an enormous amount. And then our goal is by the end of the year to have a meaningful percentage of the entire Cardano population inside of it, like 40, 50%. And then once you're at that threshold, now you have democratic majority of the entire system. And you can have a real conversation about, okay, how do we write a constitution for this type of a system?
And sorry to interrupt, but so the Constitution, people still argue about it because natural language, much like poetry, lends itself to multiple interpretations. Is it possible to formalize some of these ideas that reduce the ambiguity?
Everything's old is new again. We were talking about Lojban back in the day, right? So there's definitely formal languages you can use to express these things. This is why I'm so interested in things like Idris and Koch and Agda and theorem proving, because that's exactly what you're attempting to do, is to express some concept or desire or construction in a language that's machine understandable and manipulatable. In particular, how does a system know its own design? So what is the reference of a cryptocurrency? Usually it's a canonical code base, like, here's Bitcoin Core, and the C++ code is the canonical code base. But actually that's not right. You should have specifications, blueprints that are implementation agnostic as your canonical code base. And can your system know those specifications, understand those specifications, and can your change management system be for that? And then can you provide a proof that your client is bisimilar to that specification? So that's 10 years in the future, but that's where you would go with that kind of a concept.
But you're tending towards the formalism.
Eventually, but that's not necessary for the system in the short term. It's good enough just to have anoint a winner and say the Haskell client is that, and then what you basically do is you vote on a SIP, and then once it's approved, then you go and implement that, and there's some mechanism to trigger the update system to update the reference client.
Do you have an example of a SIP, a Cardano improvement proposal? Like
the Curve Benefit Pledge, SIP 007. So the
007.
Yeah,
good.
Everybody loves that.
Yeah,
I got to change my luggage code now, Lex.
What is that?
So basically, it just has to do with the pledge. So pledge is a certain amount of ADA that a stake pool operator will set aside and connect to his pool in order to be listed in the registry. And actually, it's connected to how much income you make as a pool operator. So if you set it too high, you have a consolidation and you have lots of pools. If you set it too low, what will happen is larger pools will tend to fragment and actually run multiple instances of themselves. And so there's this delicate parameter that you have to tweak. And so we have a formula for it in our formal specification that's quite involved. And so one of the community members came and said, well, I think we can massively simplify this design and actually get a better result for smaller stake pool operators. And so it's SIP 007. And there's actually a lot of conversation and people are thinking about it. And it's just stunning for me because to understand how to write a SIP like this, you actually have to read like 100 pages of mathematical prose in the formal specification. So the guys who wrote it, I was like, fuck yeah, this is great. But that's an example of a SIP, but that's one thing, but it can be as big as, hey, I want to add like quantum resistance to the system, and here's how you do that, like quantum VRF, and I want to put XMSS and all this other stuff. So there's a lot you can do, and you can do it you can do it indirectly or implicitly, where there's some social process outside of the system where you eventually approve a SIP, or you can do it explicitly where you directly vote, or some representative democracy, some group of representatives directly votes, and then once you've decided, the Constitution is necessary because you need to know the decision threshold. Mm-hmm. Is it supermajority or majority? And also the voting process. Like a lot of policy experts believe that if Brexit was a multi-stage vote, it would have never passed. Because what people would have done the initial stage and all the horrors of Brexit would have been broadcast to society, and then there would have been some reluctance and buyer's remorse on it, and then the second round would have failed or something like that. But because it was just a singular event, it's like they passed it. Now British are all passive aggressive about it. Oh, sign. Very well, we shall remove from Europe. And so your voting system has a lot to do with the outcome you get. The other thing is what type of voting. Is it just an absolute, or is it preference voting? Like, so, you pick your favorite SIP, follow your second favorite SIP or something like that. So Condorcet or Borda are two examples of systems.
Are you a fan of those, like the ranked choice voting?
I love them so much, especially for political diversity, because this whole concept of throwing your vote away. If it's Alice or Bob, you're always going to get South Park did it best, right? The giant the
turd.
Yeah, you know the one.
Turd versus I forget what else.
Douche
versus turd.
Douche versus turd. South Park. So if it's ranked order, or preference voting, you never have that situation because you always pick your favorite, and you get a lot more diversity on the ballot. But then you have Arrow's paradox and all these other things that come up. So there's no perfect system, and really you have to be comfortable with governance in a game of inches. And you start by some guiding principles. And the guiding principles is more is better, and productive interactions are better than destructive interactions. And you have to be able to quantify those things. As long as you have an engine that allows you to grow in those directions, then you have a lot more people along for the ride when you actually start talking about these bigger and bigger things. The other challenge was that we had to decentralize development of the protocol and the brain of the protocol. Mm-hmm. We have fully decentralized the brain of the protocol. The peer review academic process means that there's now an academic incentive for graduate students, postdocs, and professors to spend enormous amounts of time writing papers in our ecosystem because they want tenure. They want to, and we showed that you can get it. There's been a lot of people who've gotten great academic careers from working with us. So keep adding to that pile of 105 papers. This is great. And it doesn't need Charles Hoskinson. It doesn't need IOHK funding or anything like that. We're already seeing unfunded derivative work from people who are completely disconnected from us writing papers about stuff in our ecosystem. So just continue to develop that, but that's looking good. Decentralized development, we're working on that as well. Our goal is sometime in the next few years to make sure there's at least 3 independent clients, so 3 completely independent dev teams and code bases, and also to get a separation of the commercial clients from the reference code, and turn the reference code into like a formal specification, a formal blueprint, and then have that change management be completely decentralized. The core developers are actually voted on, and the SIP process is used to change that, and then some way of proving that your client follows the specification as use of the protocol.
Is there, beyond the Cardano ecosystem,
all right, guys,
these ideas of...
That's it. We're going to go ahead and end the video here, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Let's go ahead and get our Patreons. Thank you to our wonderful Patreons. AJ, Berg, Alec House, McHarris, Sergio, Lassie Nielsen, The Frontline, Jeffrey, Ethan, AmericanHomeRemedies.com, Maryland for Crypto, Bruce Wayne, Feruz Dim, Brady Adams, Joel Menes, Kyle Bocci, CryptoSVT.si, Eric Parra, I did the voice for the people, HPDSubway.com, CryptoSVT.si, Ryan Ingram, Daniel 8, Crypto Chemtrails, Climax CH, Angela Schroyer, Craig Wadding, C. Vale, MakerDAO Crumbs, Leon Jackson, Jacob Connor, and Yaya. Have a wonderful day, guys. Don't let your memes be dreams. I will talk to you tomorrow with the VeChain and Cardano updates. You don't want to miss them. Have a good day.